There is something that most Americans do every single day, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day, that can be silently protecting or silently harming blood sugar control, depending on one decision most people make without thinking. We're talking about coffee. And the difference between the coffee that helps the diabetic and the coffee that harms them is not in the quantity, it's in the type, the preparation, and most importantly, what goes inside the cup before drinking. The science on coffee and diabetes is far richer and more surprising than most people realize. The Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health documented that each daily cup of coffee is associated with approximately a 6% reduction in the risk of developing type 2 diabetes. This was documented across reviews of studies with tens of thousands of participants followed for decades. And what is striking is that this effect was observed both for caffeinated and decaffeinated coffee, which made clear that the component responsible for the metabolic protection is not caffeine itself, but other bioactive compounds in the bean. The primary of these compounds is called chlorogenic acid. It is a polyphenol abundant in coffee beans that has been documented in clinical studies as capable of inhibiting glucose absorption in the intestine, improving insulin sensitivity, and reducing hepatic glucose production. In other words, chlorogenic acid acts on exactly the 3 mechanisms that matter most to the diabetic. But not all coffee has the same concentration of this compound. And that is where the story of the 5 types I'm going to show you today begins. Today, I'm going to show you the 5 types of coffee that a diabetic can consume with the greatest benefits for blood sugar control, with the exact mechanisms and the studies behind them. And I'll also show you how to sweeten coffee without compromising blood sugar, because there's no point choosing the right type of coffee if you put 2 spoons of sugar in it. Stay until the end, because the 5th type of coffee has the most specific and strongest evidence of blood sugar reduction in people who already have type 2 diabetes, with a number that will surprise any coffee lover. I'm Dr. Sarah Walker. Did you know that only 1% of the people who watch this video actually subscribe to the channel? If this content is helping you, hit the subscribe button right now. It's free. It helps me a great deal to keep bringing you this health information every week, and it makes sure YouTube keeps showing you important videos like this one. The usual reminder, everything I share here is meant to complement your medical treatment, never replace it. Keep taking your medications and attending your regular appointments. The first type of coffee is plain black coffee with nothing added, and it opens the list because it's the foundation of all the others, and because it's where chlorogenic acid is most available without interference from other ingredients. When you drink plain filtered or drip coffee without sugar, without artificial sweetener, without flavored creamer, without condensed milk, you're delivering to your body one of the most concentrated sources of chlorogenic acid in the human diet. Chlorogenic acid acts through 3 simultaneous documented mechanisms. The first is the inhibition of the enzyme glucose 6-phosphatase in the liver, which is responsible for releasing stored glucose into the blood. When chlorogenic acid inhibits it, the liver releases less glucose while fasting, which explains why studies observe lower fasting blood sugar in regular coffee drinkers. The second mechanism is the stimulation of GLP-1, the same incretin hormone that modern medications like semaglutide mimic. The third mechanism is the improvement of insulin sensitivity in muscle cells. A review published in the journal Nutrients in 2025, consolidating data from multiple clinical studies, concluded that coffee has relevant potential in the prevention and management of type 2 diabetes with chlorogenic acids, as the compounds most likely responsible for the observed metabolic benefits. Drip or pour-over coffee preserves more chlorogenic acid than pod coffee. Dark roast coffee has less chlorogenic acid because intense prolonged heat degrades part of this compound. Prefer light or medium roast whenever possible. Practical dose: 2 to 3 cups of drip coffee per day without sugar, preferably between meals rather than with meals to avoid interfering with iron absorption. The second type is decaffeinated coffee, and it is especially relevant for a specific group of diabetics. Those who feel that regular coffee worsens their blood sugar control notice nervousness, increased blood pressure, or a racing heart after their morning cup. This happens because caffeine has a paradoxical short-term effect. In the long term, regular coffee drinkers have lower diabetes risk, primarily due to polyphenols. But in the short term, caffeine can temporarily raise blood sugar by stimulating the central nervous system and increasing cortisol, which causes the liver to release glucose. For diabetics who already have difficulty with blood sugar control, this temporary elevation can be problematic. Decaffeinated coffee solves this dilemma. It delivers chlorogenic acids and polyphenols without the caffeine. A study published in the British Journal of Nutrition, conducted by Brazilian scientists, showed that consumption of decaffeinated coffee significantly improved insulin sensitivity compared to water, while regular coffee did not show the same effect in the same group. The reason is precise. Without the caffeine that temporarily raises blood sugar, the effect of chlorogenic acid on insulin sensitivity appears in a clean and measurable way. For diabetics who drink coffee regularly and notice that blood sugar rises after their cup, switching to decaffeinated is the first strategy to test before any other change. The flavor is very similar to regular coffee, and the metabolic benefits, without the temporary blood sugar raising effect of caffeine, may be greater for this specific profile. The third type is coffee with cinnamon, and this combination has something special that goes beyond the simple sum of the benefits of each ingredient separately. Coffee alone has chlorogenic acids. Cinnamon alone has cinnamaldehyde and proanthocyanidins, but when combined, the mechanisms complement each other in ways documented in clinical studies. Chlorogenic acid improves insulin receptor sensitivity and inhibits hepatic glucose release. Cinnamaldehyde from cinnamon improves the translocation of GLUT4, the glucose transporter in muscle cells, which is the mechanism by which glucose enters cells after insulin action. Two distinct pathways arriving at the same result, more glucose being captured by cells with less insulin required. The Harvard School of Public Health has also documented cinnamon as one of the natural compounds with the most consistent evidence for improving insulin sensitivity. The Nurses' Health Study and the Health Professionals' Follow-up Study, with hundreds of thousands of participants followed for decades, observed associations between cinnamon consumption and improved metabolic markers in people with insulin resistance. How to prepare? Add 1/2 to 1 tsp of cinnamon powder to the coffee grounds before brewing or sprinkle directly into the cup after pouring. A cinnamon stick placed in the filter with the grounds also works well and delivers a milder flavor. Never use sweetened cinnamon sachets or cinnamon-flavored syrups with added sugar. Use pure cinnamon powder or sticks only. The fourth type is coffee with turmeric, also called golden coffee. And this entered the coffee world not just for aesthetics, but because the combination has solid and specific scientific foundation for the diabetic. Curcumin, the active compound in turmeric, was studied in a randomized clinical trial with 240 people with prediabetes, published in Diabetes Care, the official journal of the American Diabetes Association. In the group that used curcumin throughout the study, 0% progressed to type 2 diabetes. In the placebo group, 16.4% developed diabetes by the end of the follow-up. It is one of the most striking data points I have ever found in a study with a natural spice. Curcumin acts through two primary mechanisms relevant to the diabetic. The first is anti-inflammatory action that reduces the chronic low-grade inflammation that feeds insulin resistance. When cells are inflamed, insulin receptors function like rusted locks that don't respond well to the key. Curcumin lubricates those locks from the inside. The second mechanism is the direct improvement of the function of pancreatic beta cells that produce insulin. When curcumin combines with the chlorogenic acid from coffee, two compounds attack insulin resistance through complementary and simultaneous pathways. A critical preparation detail, curcumin has extremely low absorption on its own. Always add a pinch of black pepper together with the turmeric. The piperine in black pepper increases curcumin absorption by up to 2,000%. Without the pepper, most of the turmeric passes through the intestine without being absorbed. With the pepper, curcumin actually enters the bloodstream and can exert its effects. How to prepare? Mix 1/2 teaspoon of turmeric powder and a pinch of black pepper into brewed coffee while still hot. If you like, add cinnamon as well. The flavor is slightly earthy and different from regular coffee, but pleasant for most people after a few days of adaptation. This can be served hot or iced. The fifth type of coffee is green coffee extract, and this is the one with the most direct and specific evidence of blood sugar reduction in people who already have a type 2 diabetes diagnosis. Green coffee is the coffee bean before it goes through the roasting process. When the bean is roasted, heat develops the characteristic aroma of coffee that everyone knows, but also degrades a significant portion of the chlorogenic acid present in the raw bean. A dark roast has much lower chlorogenic acid concentration than the original green bean. Green coffee extract produced from the unroasted bean has chlorogenic acid concentrations far higher than any roasted coffee. A controlled and randomized clinical trial with patients diagnosed with type 2 diabetes showed that after 3 weeks of using decaffeinated green coffee extract, fasting blood glucose fell from an average of 144.7 mL/dL to 92.23 mL/dL, a reduction of more than 50 mL/dL in 3 weeks. Results were statistically significant with a p-value of 0.01. The researchers documented that the absence of caffeine was deliberate and crucial. Without the caffeine that reduces glucose tolerance, chlorogenic acid at high concentration can express its insulin-sensitizing effect with maximum efficiency. Green coffee does not taste like roasted coffee. It is a lighter-colored beverage with a herbal, slightly bitter flavor profile, very different from the aroma we associate with morning coffee. It is available at health food stores, Whole Foods, and online as capsule extract, as a sachet for infusion, or as whole green beans. If you prefer the taste of roasted coffee but want to maximize chlorogenic acid intake, the most practical everyday strategy is to choose light roast coffee, which is roasted for less time and preserves significantly more chlorogenic acid than the medium or dark roasts that dominate most American grocery shelves. Now, the part that is equally important and that most people underestimate: how to sweeten coffee without using sugar and without compromising blood sugar control. Sugar in coffee is, in practice, far more harmful to the diabetic than anything about the coffee itself. Coffee has compounds that protect blood sugar, but when you dissolve 2 teaspoons of sugar in the cup, you're adding fast-absorbing glucose into a hot liquid with no fiber, no protein, and no buffer. That is the fastest blood sugar elevation scenario possible in human nutrition. The problem is never the coffee. It's what goes inside it. The first sweetening option is natural stevia. Stevia is a plant whose leaves have an intensely sweet flavor, but whose active compounds, the steviosides, are barely absorbed by the intestine and do not raise blood sugar. 0 glycemic index, 0 calories, no insulin impact. Natural stevia powder or liquid extract is the lowest glycemic impact option available. The flavor has a slight aftertaste that not everyone enjoys initially, but most people adapt well after a few days. Choose stevia extract without added maltodextrin or dextrose, which are high glycemic fillers added to many commercial stevia blends. Read the label. The second option is erythritol. Erythritol is a sugar alcohol that occurs naturally in small amounts in some fruits and fermented foods, and is produced by fermentation for culinary use. It has 70% of sugar's sweetening power, but only 0.24 calories per gram, and does not raise blood sugar or insulin in measurable amounts. It is the sugar alcohol with the best documented safety profile. Unlike sorbitol and mannitol, erythritol does not cause gastrointestinal discomfort in most people at normal usage amounts. It dissolves well in hot coffee and has a flavor very close to sugar. Swerve and Lakanto are widely available U.S. brands that use erythritol as a primary ingredient. The third option is pure cinnamon, which is simultaneously the sweetener most integrated into coffee, and the only one that beyond not harming blood sugar actively protects it. In sufficient quantity in the cup, cinnamon delivers a warmth and sweetness perception that can replace sugar surprisingly effectively, especially when combined with vanilla. It is the most natural strategy of all. The fourth option is pure natural vanilla extract without added sugar. A few drops of pure vanilla extract added to coffee create a perception of richer, sweeter flavor that significantly reduces the need for added sweetener. Pure vanilla extract in alcohol or alcohol-free form is the ideal choice. Do not use artificial vanilla flavoring with added sugar. Read the ingredient label before buying. The fifth option is unsweetened almond milk. Many people sweeten coffee with sweetened dairy creamer, condensed milk, or flavored half and half. Replacing these with unsweetened almond milk delivers pleasant creaminess, with a naturally mild sweetness from the almonds without high glycemic carbohydrates. And as we discussed in our video on the best flours for diabetics, almonds contain magnesium that directly improves insulin sensitivity. What to never put in coffee: white table sugar, brown sugar, honey, coconut sugar, maple syrup, agave syrup. All of these have high glycemic index and raise blood sugar similarly to white sugar or close to it. Brown sugar and coconut sugar have a health reputation that does not hold up under glycemic scrutiny. Both raise blood sugar very similarly to white sugar. Flavored coffee syrups at coffee shops, sweetened creamers, and sugar-based sweetener packets with disguised names are also problems that compromise blood sugar control. When ordering at Starbucks or any coffee shop, specify unsweetened and ask for the sugar content of any syrup or milk alternative before ordering. To summarize, plain black light roast drip coffee, chlorogenic acid at maximum concentration, 3 mechanisms of glycemic protection, 2 to 3 cups daily without sugar. Decaffeinated coffee, chlorogenic acid effect without the temporary blood sugar elevation from caffeine, ideal for those who notice worsening control after regular coffee. Coffee with cinnamon, synergy between chlorogenic acid and cinnamaldehyde attacking insulin resistance through distinct pathways, half to 1 TSP per cup. Coffee with turmeric and black pepper, curcumin with evidence from a randomized trial published in Diabetes Care combined with chlorogenic acid, always with pepper to maximize curcumin absorption. Green coffee extract or light roast, highest chlorogenic acid concentration of all five, with evidence of more than 50 millimolar DL reduction in fasting blood glucose in a controlled study with type 2 diabetics. For sweetening, natural stevia, erythritol, pure cinnamon, pure natural vanilla extract, and unsweetened almond milk. Never white sugar, brown sugar, honey, coconut sugar, maple syrup, or flavored industrial syrups. Coffee is not the enemy of the diabetic. In the right form, with the right preparation, and without sugar, it is one of the daily habits with the strongest scientific documentation of protection against diabetes progression. The problem was never the coffee. It was the sugar that came with it. Comment below, do you currently drink your coffee with sugar? And which of these 5 versions are you going to try first? Tell me. That real experience exchange helps everyone learning here together. Share this video with someone who has diabetes and can't give up sweetened coffee. Now that person knows exactly how to drink coffee the right way. You know that less than 1% of people who watch our videos subscribe to the channel? If this content made a difference for you today, hit the subscribe button. It's free, it makes sure YouTube keeps showing you this information, and it helps this work continue every week for you. I'm Dr. Sarah Walker. And remember, the problem was never the coffee, it was the sugar inside it. See you in the next video. One more thought worth adding specifically for the American context. The coffee shop culture in the US has made it extraordinarily easy to consume enormous amounts of hidden sugar inside coffee-based drinks without realizing it. A typical flavored latte at a major coffee chain can contain 40 to 60 grams of sugar, the equivalent of 10 to 15 teaspoons of pure sugar dissolved in what most people think of as just a coffee. A Frappuccino-style blended drink can exceed 70 grams of sugar in a single serving. These are not coffee for the diabetic. These are desserts labeled as coffee. The 5 types of coffee we discussed today are all beverages you can order or make at home, with 0 added sugar and meaningful metabolic benefit. When ordering at a coffee shop, specify unsweetened, ask for oat milk or almond milk with no added sugar, skip any flavored syrup, and choose black or with a splash of plain milk if needed. Those 3 adjustments take a potential blood sugar disaster and turn it into a genuinely beneficial daily habit. The coffee culture in America is not the enemy. The sugar hidden inside it is.